Alright guys, today we're going to be installing rear brake pads on this 2019 Ford F-150. We're going to be installing the Duralast Elite brake pads. This F-150, it does have four-wheel drive, and it's going to have the electronic braking system in the rear. So we're going to have to disable that in order to be able to push those calipers back to fit the new brake pads. So the first thing we're going to do is set it into maintenance mode. So the first thing we're going to do is put this thing into maintenance mode, and if you've never done it before, it could be kind of a pain. I struggled with it the first time for a little while, but now that I know how to do it, there's a certain order you have to do things in and a certain speed you have to do things in order to set it. So what you're going to want to do is take your key and put it in the ignition here, and you're going to turn that 2 notches just so all that comes on. So now you're going to want to push in the gas pedal at the same time that you're pushing in on the e-brake here. So press and hold. Do it for a few seconds. Then you're going to turn the key off and turn it right back on while still pushing in on that and still holding the gas pedal. There we go. And at that point you can release. So you can hear a whole bunch of stuff going on back by the brakes, and then those 2 signs will come up. So just keep holding the parking brake and the gas pedal in. That was the few things I was missing the first time I was letting off. So and then at this point, it's already ready to go. So you can turn the key off, pull it out, and we're ready to change the brakes. Okay, now that we got the vehicle in maintenance mode, we can collect our tools. So what we're going to need, probably a pair of gloves if you need some. Bungee cord will come in handy. Your jack, a jack stand, a pipe probably if you're going to be using a smaller socket just for more leverage. This is going to be a 13mm socket. You're going to need needle nose pliers, and it has to be a needle nose. Some sort of C-clamp or some sort of clamp. And of course your brake pads and your brake lube. Now before we start taking any tires off, I'm actually going to open up the brake fluid reservoir cap just a little bit to let some air out because it is pressurized. So when I start pushing in the calipers and stuff that's going to be pushing fluid back up there, it could actually pop that cap off. So just make sure to unloosen that a little bit so some air can flow through and that can get pushed back up. But just remember to make sure to tighten that up before you're done. Alrighty, now we are ready to take the tire off. So the first thing we want to do is just loosen up these lug nuts. It's going to be a lot easier to loosen up the lug nuts while it's completely on the ground. So go ahead and just loosen them up. Alright, now let's loosen. We'll get the jack underneath, get the vehicle jacked up, and we'll put our jack stand underneath, and then we'll remove the tire. Alright, we got the wheel off now, so now we're on to the actual brakes. So we're going to have 2 bolts on the back we're going to have to remove, and they're both 13mm. So if you go back here, it's going to be this one right here. There we go. And another one right down here. So those 2 are we're going to remove. And there's actually going to be kind of a nut on the inside here. So right here we're going to remove this bolt, and this is actually going to be spinning while you're removing it. So this is where your needle nose pliers, this is why you have to have a needle nose. So you'll hold that tight, and then you will use your 13mm socket. And like I said, if you need a pipe for leverage, make sure you have a pipe around, and then because some of these are actually on pretty tight. And then you'll remove those 2 bolts. Alright, so now when you get those 2 bolts out, it should be able to just remove this whole centerpiece. And before you do that, you're going to get your bungee cord. So you're just going to hang this up somewhere so all the wires and stuff going to it aren't going to be hanging. So there's a hole up here in the frame. You can stick it up into there. And you're going to, at that point, you should be able to just pull this off here like that. And there's going to be a hole up here. You can kind of just shove your bungee cord through a couple times maybe so it doesn't hang so low. Like that. And then kind of hook it back up there just so it's out of the way, and again the wires aren't getting pinched down there. So that should be alright. Alright, so now you can move on to removing the brake pads. So these are your old brake pads right here. It's easiest probably to grab from one end or the other and pull that out, and then the other side will just fall out. So this would be like a clip down here. If you kind of push back on this clip, you usually could just slide this out like that, and then you can just, and the top again will just be sitting there. So as you can see, there's like hooks like that, and it kind of just slides into that spot right there. So if you just pry one side up or the bottom side, this whole pad should come out. So now do the same to the other side. Then once you get the pads off, you'll have to remove these clips because your new brake pads should come with clips. So you can use a screwdriver to just pry these off, otherwise they should just kind of bend down and they should pop right off for you. Then with your new brake pads, they should have some new clips. So you can usually see there's like little clips on the end here. So that's going to be clipping the ends here. So you shouldn't be able to put this on really backwards or anything. So the big clip like that part will be towards the top. So usually if you can get it behind the back first, then it kind of just clips into place. There you go. Should hear it snap. So that one's in place, and then kind of the opposite on the bottom one. Then just take your new brake pads, and again they're going to have those little cutouts there. They'll just follow right in line with those cutouts, and you'll follow the curve of the brake pad with the curve of the brake rotor here. So you really can't put these in the wrong way. So again, kind of the opposite of the way you took them out. Just kind of get one side in, and the bottom should just fall right into place. There you go, squeeze them together so they're all touching the rotors. Okay, so now what we're going to have to do is push this caliper back in so it will be wide enough to accept the new brake pads since they're wider now. So as you can see there, hopefully, that's part's kind of raised. That's the piston that we have to push back down in. There's lots of different ways you can do this. Some people use C-clamps. There actually is a tool that's made for this. What I'm just going to do is just find like a piece of something hard here that's flat that you can put on there. And you're going to take a clamp and then you're pretty much going to compress this down. Just be really careful though, because the back of this is going to be your electronic brake here. So just make sure not to damage that. And you're going to push this in as far as it can go. Alright, so now once you get the caliper pushed all the way in, you can take your brake lube here and just get a little bit on your finger. You'll be rubbing it on the outside of the brake pads here. This will just keep it from squeaking a lot. And then you should be able to put the caliper back over on top of this. So undo your bungee cord. And just line up your bolts here. And there you go. And then you can put your 13 millimeters back into there. And that does it. So now you can just put your tire back on, lower back down, make sure to close up your brake fluid reservoir, and make sure to take it out of the maintenance mode. So you just do the opposite of what we did at the beginning. So to do that again, put your key in the ignition, turn it just to the auxiliary. We're going to pull the brake, electronic brake now, and push in the gas. Then we're going to turn this off and turn it back on. And just keep holding everything again. go.